On today's show, what the hell happened at the Intuit Dome on Wednesday night? The Clippers getting absolutely rocked like never before this season to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the second night of a back-to-back. Was it just the second night of a back-to-back, or were there bigger problems to talk about? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and in my 20th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. A video of my experience at the Tuesday game, the game that we won in the back-to-back, is on my channel, and Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Let me know what you thought of this game. Just give me all your thoughts. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Head on over to FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And remember, you can also listen to this podcast on audio and, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. Now, we also have a newsletter. Locked On Clippers Daily Newsletter. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. Your boy writes it, and it would really be appreciated. All right, so this game was an absolute joke. I had a prior commitment, so I could not attend, and I'm thankful that I did not attend because this would have been a complete waste. Complete waste. I'm going to talk about our offense because we only scored 80 points, which in the modern NBA is not very common. And then, effectively our lowest scoring game of the season. But, and it's funny because the two lowest scoring games of the season for us were, we have a tie with 92 points with the Minnesota loss and the OKC loss at home, the one that we lost at Intuit Dome. But then this one obviously is the sole first place winner for lowest scoring game from us this season. Then we'll also be talking about the overall theme, takeaways from the game, and then at the end, I'll be discussing the young players that got a chance to get some run. But this game was a complete disaster. I honestly think that it was the first game I can point to this season where the team just didn't really try. Norman Powell was out for load management or injury management, whatever you want to call it, on the second half of a back-to-back because he just came back from a hamstring injury. And to be honest, just given, and I'm not a doctor, but what I know about hamstrings and remembering Chris Paul and with all the problems that he had with his hamstring for us, it's fine. Do I think he could have played? Absolutely, but we aren't, to be honest, even though every game counts, and this West is so many competitive teams, we are not in a place where I'm like, look, if we lose a game to the Minnesota Timberwolves that before the season even started, and you look at the schedule, you could say, well, the Clippers might lose to them, especially if Kawhi's not playing. If Kawhi's not playing before the season, you'd put your money on the Timberwolves probably to beat the Clippers before you saw this team play a game, unless you're either really low on the Timberwolves or were really high on the Kawhi-less version of the Clippers. But most people would take a team that just made it to the conference finals, even with the trade. By the way, speaking of the trade, Randall was unbelievable last night. I mean, whoa. He was hitting, and he has some of those games where he hits every contested jumper, and there's just not much you can do. And you know what? That was just the case. Some of them were pretty contested, and if you put even a semi-contested long jumper for Julius Randle, I think is a win for the defense. I think that's what the coaches are saying we will want to give up with him. But they just all made shots. It wasn't just Randle. However, not having Norman Powell was tough. My point was, it's not the biggest deal in the world to lose that game, to sit Norman Powell for that game. Because I'll talk about the grand scheme of things in the next segment, but we are overachieving right now. You know what I'm saying? We were overachieving. But in addition to Norman Powell, we also had Kevin Porter Jr., who's still out, and then Terrence Mann, who's going to be reevaluated in 3 weeks, they said on the broadcast last night. 3 weeks. So, with that fractured middle finger, that's going to be rough. It's going to mean more Jordan Miller. But when KPJ comes back, until KPJ comes back, we're looking at maybe Bones Highland. And let's just talk about the way we played. You knew that without Norm, you were going to need a great night from your best player, James Harden. And James Harden was, in my opinion, it was his worst game of the season. His effort defensively was not there at all in transition or in the half court. He wasn't closing out. He wasn't, the effort was just not there on that end of the floor. Point of attack, closing out, secondary effort. There was no primary effort on that end of the floor. And then offensively, he just didn't hit shots. And there were a lot of possessions where he was, because the Minnesota Timberwolves are switching 1 through 4. They started Jaden McDaniels on him, obviously Gobert on Zubac, and Gobert in drop coverage. And Harden, in the beginning of the game, he tried to get that mismatch with Randall, with Conley, and he got to the paint a couple of times and got some good shots for us. But nobody could hit an open three. We couldn't, besides Derrick Jones Jr. hitting like one in the first quarter, we could not hit an open three. And the Minnesota Timberwolves simultaneously at the other end are hitting every three, especially Randall, who had 16 points in the first quarter, and we only had 14 points as a team. We got outscored by Julius Randle in the first quarter. So we were just not hitting anything. But that includes James Harden as well. And I thought throughout the game there were a lot of possessions where he had the isolation, and he was just dribbling so much that given, you're on the second night of a back-to-back. I know he lulls guys to sleep, and it's always been his ISO has always been a lot of dribbles, but it tires out. It has to tire someone out. And I've said this before he was on the Clippers, not just a singular game thing, but the extra dribbles that James does. I always think there's some moments where he can just get to his move in like 2 to 3 dribbles less, because he does. I know he has the lulling to sleep, but he can lull in 2 dribbles, 3 dribbles. I mean, maybe it was different for James, but most back in the day, I know, and then even when I was growing up, less dribbles was emphasized. 2 to 3 dribble one-on-ones and stuff like that. But James is signature at creating advantages with the way that he plays. And he still was creating advantages in this game. But I just thought there were a good amount of moments throughout the game where I was just like, man, after all that dribbling, it's hard to make a shot. Like, I know James does it, but there are times in the past where he hasn't done it. And this was like one of those games where he also just missed shots that he normally makes. He got a lot of floaters in the lane with Gobert and drop coverage, and he wasn't hitting. And then the next guy that has to be held accountable is Ivica Zubac. And we got to play through him. But for whatever reason, Ty Lue has been very pro delay offense, and which means Zubac initiating from the high post and running dribble handoffs with James and Norm, and that curl with Norm and stuff like that, just kind of bringing Zubac out. But I'm gonna be honest with you, the Zubac in the high post, I'm not a huge fan of. Just having Zubac, unless he's screening, I'm not a huge fan of Zoo being away from the basket with the ball in his hands. I think the best thing for the team is to have Zoo around the basket. And he just didn't do a good enough job of sealing Rudy and certain defenders when passes were being thrown to him. And I do think there were lazy passes in the entry from guys like James and others as well on the team. The reason why I mentioned James is because he's the only one I can remember doing it multiple times. But bad entry passes, but Zoo's got to do a better job sealing, of keeping the defender on his back. And I also think the coaching staff, I'm not a huge fan of the approach of having Zubac catch the ball so much outside of the paint, or not, within 8 feet of the basket. Just anyone that's saying it's too hard, no, it's not too hard. It's not too hard. And it's definitely much easier to do than, or not easier, but it could have been done more frequently than last night. Let's read the stat line for both of them. James Harden But James Harden also just had an off night too. 5 points. 5 points is crazy for James, considering the way he's been playing. But you know what? You also got to give the Timberwolves credit. Their defense was good. It looked like the old Timberwolves, like to a degree. And they've been catching stride a little bit now. They're starting to put it together after the win against us, of course, and the other LA team. James had 5 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists, 4 turnovers. So more turnovers than assists. 1 for 10 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, and only got to the foul line twice in 25 minutes. Look, it was his worst game of the season. It happens. James Harden's still been our MVP. He's still been phenomenal this season, and he still should be an all-star this season. Ivica Zubac's 4 points, equally as trash on the night. I'm not saying he's trash as a player. You know how I feel. 10 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 2 for 4 from the field. The only thing I like there is rebounding. And 1 turnover is fine, but 4 points and 4 shots when Norman Powell doesn't play is a joke. And we miss Norman Powell desperately, but I don't need to tell you that. Everybody can see it. And then Terrence Mann, I think we're going to miss his energy as well, just his competence as an NBA player. You know what I mean? Because, look, everybody was missing open threes, but Bones Highland, second unit, he did not look much better than KPJ until it was garbage time. He was actually, there were times where he got in the paint, but he got stuck in the air, getting too far into the basket and jump passing and just not seeing, he would miss the open man, get further into a more crowded area, and then, it's hard to make pick and roll reads in the NBA. Some guys like James Harden just make it look very easy. You know what I'm saying? Guys the guys you see, they make it look very simple, but it's because the length and size and athleticism of NBA players is just crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's very easy for us to analyze watching from a side view of seeing the whole court on TV, but it's much more difficult to be there when you have a 6'8" guy with long-ass arms taking away windows so you don't even see the guys in the corner. So, you know what I'm saying? It was a rough game. It was a rough game, and it's because we could not score the basketball. And it starts with James Harden and Ivica Zubac. Coaching staff could have been better. I mean, Chris Dunn also has been really poor offensively lately. 1 for 8, or shooting the ball especially. 1 for 8 from the field. 0 for 3 from deep. So, it just wasn't our night. But coming up, going to talk about more things specifically in the game and how we got to look at it going forward and reflecting on this recent stretch. I got to tell you a little something about Chime. We've all been there, spending more than we should during the holidays. I'm a little worried about it. My parents often talk about it. But you can take control of your finances by using a Chime checking account with features like no monthly or maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Learn more at chime.com/NBA. Join millions of Chime members who are working on financial progress. Chime helps with fee-free overdraft up to $200. Your next deposit is applied to your balance. Get spotted on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals. To date, Chime has spotted over $32 billion in transactions through SpotMe. Friends give friends a boost. Set up direct deposit in your Chime account. After a qualifying direct deposit of $200+, Chime will notify you to enroll in SpotMe. With an activated debit card, Chime will spot you up to $200 on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals. Your next direct deposit is applied to your negative balance. Enjoy the holidays while keeping your financial goals on track with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp N.A., Bancorp Bank N.A., or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Direct deposit timing depends on submission of payment file. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs and for OTC withdrawals. All right. The LA Clippers losing this one 108-80. Our 9-game home winning streak at Intuit Dome has been snapped. Unfortunately, it's because I wasn't there. Duh. But in all seriousness, we just got to wash it off. It was one game. You know what I'm saying? James Harden had a horrible shooting game. But the high post stuff with Zoo and so much of him catching, I'm fine with the dribble handoffs, but like when Norm is not playing, post ups throughout the game, deliberate, play through him. And it's like, how much are we going to try to put on James? Like, do you want to know a stat about the Clippers that Brian Seaman kept saying in commentary, and it's very like relevant? The Clippers haven't had more than 1 day off since October 30th. They legitimately have not had more than a day off, and they've had back-to-backs in that stretch. They've been playing a lot of basketball. Guys like James Harden and Ivica Zubac have been playing a lot of basketball. But here's my thing. In the world of load management, if James Harden is going to look like that on the basketball court, please don't play him. And I know he wants to play games, but like James, I mean, and you know, if he had shot the ball better, we could be having a different discussion. But like, it was the little stuff. Like his body language was not of someone that was engaged the same way he's been lately. It's just that simple. I even saw some of Harden's own fans that stand by him at every turn and hate my guts, saying the same thing. So it is what it is. But you know, guys like Bones Highland, this is an opportunity for Bones. You know, fans have been clamoring for it. I've said I felt bad for him. But when Kevin Porter Jr. was in, did I ever say that Bones should take his spot or get a chance? I did not. Not even in the preseason. Because I know what Kevin Porter Jr. is capable of. And the size that he has, he's more comfortable scoring the ball than Bones. I think Bones is a better passer, but some of the passes he was throwing last night were very risky, very bad, wayward. And again, getting into the lane, missing the open man, taking a dribble or two more, getting stuck under the basket and jump passing and having the windows close on him because the defense is kind of collapsing and shrinking on him. So, yeah, he's got to be better if he's going to play rotation minutes in these next couple of weeks with Terrence out and depending on how long KPJ's out. The dream for me is that Bones plays so well and KPJ's out of the rotation because I just like Bones more. But I don't know about that. He did end up playing well, though, in, you know, garbage time. And he hit some threes, which was nice to see. I mean, if he gets reps, he can have games where he gets extremely hot, as we've seen. And it's funny because he was a +1 in a 28-point loss. Cam Christie, we'll talk about him in the next segment, all the young guys, but there were some guys that actually still were positive in the plus-minus, even in the 28-point loss. But you have Bones Highland, who had 18 points, actually was our leading scorer on 5 for 12 shooting and 5 for 10 from 3. And he also shot 3 for 4 from the line. 4 boards, 2 assists, but he turned the ball over 5 times. So there you go. Like that stuff. And the Clippers turned the ball over entirely too much in the first half especially. They turned the ball over 23 times in the game, and they had 29 points off those turnovers, Minnesota. So we had 32 points in the first half. 32 points. And we were missing a lot of good looks, to be honest, even with all the stuff I've said. A lot of good looks. But the Wolves were also hitting from 3. They shot 36% for the game, but I guarantee you if I took the first 3 quarters, you'd get a much better percentage because we actually won the fourth. We outscored them 30-22, but we got outscored 33-14 in the first, 26-18 in the second, and 27-18 in the third. So we didn't even score 20 points in any of the first 3 quarters, which is absolutely embarrassing, but it is what it is. We didn't have Norm, and James and Zoo had a stinker. It is, what can you say? Julius Randle had 20 points to lead the way for the other side. But as I said, you just got to wash it off. We got one of the 2 games on the back-to-back. We've been playing so many games. We've played one of the hardest schedules in the NBA, and we're 14-10 without Kawhi. And by the way, there's videos of Kawhi actually warming up with a basketball in his hands on the Intuit Dome floor hours before the game. That's been trending on social media. He's looking good. And there, Bill Simmons even said he's heard from his Clipper guy that Kawhi Leonard is going to try to come back before Christmas. What I've heard, and I think I hinted to it on one of the pods like a week or two, like 2 weeks ago maybe, or like 10 days ago around that time, that I've also heard that Kawhi is like he's nearing a return. Like he's actually doing stuff on the court. And that video obviously confirmed it. But Ty Lue hasn't really been hiding that from us. He said that he's back on the court. He just hasn't done 5-on-5 stuff. But I'm thinking it's going to be late December or early January. And, like, I can't lie. The fact of – because I think we've all kind of put Kawhi Leonard aside in terms of, like, how do I phrase this? We haven't been thinking about him right now in the context of this team. I mean, like, in the back of our minds, we do, of course. But, like, watching the team play and, like, you know, when we think about what we're doing next game, we don't think about, oh, is Kawhi Leonard coming back? We don't think about that. We're like, all right, our team is James Harden right now. He's the best player. He's the guy. That's how we feel about it. Norm and Zoo is, like, our big three right now. Actually thinking about Kawhi, like, really coming back with this team and the fact that if he comes back, let's say it's game 30, I think we'll be right around 500, maybe even better by the time he comes back. And he's had all this time to wait. The only thing that scares me is how his knee responds when he plays. But, man, if he can just do a 45-game season and a full playoffs, we've done it. The team has done everything for him now at this point in terms of playing competently enough. It's beyond competent. They've been playing well to get him in a position to play and have a chance at making a little run and getting a high seed. I mean, a top 3 seed is not out of the question in terms of the way we're looking in the standings right now. It's right there. So if Kawhi comes back and we're still in the range, I mean, geez, if we can get a top 3 seed, I'll feel better about us winning a ring than I did last year. But anyway, coming up, going to speak about the young guys. Trenton Flowers, Kai Jones, Cam Christie, coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And this weekend, we've got Packers at Detroit Lions for Thursday Night Football. The Lions are -3.5 for that. And then you've got the Bills at the Rams on Sunday. 1:25 local time. Bills are -3.5. Chargers at Chiefs. Chiefs are -3.5 on that one. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. So let's talk about some of the young guys that were playing. Really good to see guys like Cam Christie and Trenton Flowers get an opportunity. And honestly, I'm going to begin with Trenton Flowers. He was pretty athletic. And playing so hard, you could tell he was trying to, prove something. I mean, guns blazing, going to the basket, flying all over the place. Obviously, looked a little out of control. And by the way, we could not hit shots around the rim to save our lives last night. I mean, we couldn't hit shots, period, last night. But around the rim, we were just missing a bunch of, little semi-contested layups and stuff like that. Just shots around the rim. But Trenton Flowers came in and gave us 9 points and 4 rebounds on 4 for 9 shooting and made his only free throw, 0 for 2 from 3, but super active, and he's listed at 6'9". So there's real potential there. Kai Jones was plus 11 in his minutes, and so was Trenton Flowers. So both of them were plus 11 in their time. Kai Jones had 3 points, 5 rebounds, an assist, and 2 steals and a block. So he was really active when he came in. And I think he's been active whenever he's played, honestly. 1 turnover, didn't get a shot up, but was 3 for 4 from the foul line in 16 minutes. By the way, I didn't mention Nico Batum earlier, but he was very quiet. Only played 8 minutes, had a donut, had 1 turnover, and missed a 3 and was minus 17 and had a foul. So maybe his worst game of the season, too. Mo Bamba, 6 minutes and had a donut, a rebound, and an assist. It's because I don't even think they came in for a second shift. They were just done. Jordan Miller, one thing I'll say about Jordan Miller, he has a really good second jump. He'll miss a shot, and then immediately he's back up in the air to put it back up and try to get his own rebound. His athleticism is pretty impressive. He didn't have the best shooting game in this one, just 4 for 11 from the field and 0 for 2 from 3. But he had 8 points, 4 rebounds, and assists. And I just love the reps he's getting. He didn't turn the ball over, and he played 24 minutes, and we had 23 turnovers as a team. So pretty solid. Derrick Jones Jr. was actually one of the only guys that could score last night. He had 14 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and a block. He did turn the ball over twice, but he was 5 for 12 from the field and 3 for 7 from 3 and made his only free throw. So he actually had a pretty good shooting game. And Amir Coffey actually had a solid shooting game, but he was whatever. Turned the ball over too much. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 3 turnovers on 5 for 8 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3, and made his only free throw. I talked about Bones Highland. I think he was still solid and ended the game with some momentum. He needs some reps. I still think he can be a backup point guard in the NBA, but on what kind of a team? That's my question. Now, Cam Christie, I actually really liked what I saw defensively from him. He's very long. He's got good size. Max Christie's a pretty solid defender as well, so I'm not surprised. But Cam might even have more potential on that end. And then offensively, he's got a quick trigger. And just like in the summer league and in preseason, he hasn't really been hitting the shots in game. He was 2 for 7 from the field and 1 for 4 from 3. And by the way, Bones Highland didn't play a first half at all so far this season before that game. But Cam Christie had his first NBA points on a breakaway dunk and then hit a 3 ball. 5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 turnover, and was a plus 8 in 18 minutes. So I liked what I saw. There are some solid young players on this team. I would keep hold of Trenton Flowers, Cam Christie. I still think we should have kept Brandon Boston, but they would have had to pay him a real contract, and I don't know. He wouldn't have been in this rotation, I don't think. I'd rather, again, Brandon Boston or KPJ. I'll have the comments answer that. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper content and vlogs from the games featuring fans. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, even YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Let me know everything you want to know in the comments, or everything you have to say or want to know in the comments. Again, wash it off. It's not a big deal. Just an shooting game, and we have a couple days rest before Sunday's game against the Rockets. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off. It's going to be a much needed and well-deserved rest for the guys and everybody involved with the team. Sadly, that means absolutely no rest for me. I also want to apologize for the last 2 episodes coming out later than right when you wake up the next day after the game, because I've just been really, really, really busy. I've been sleeping very little, and sometimes I watch the game and it's 2 in the morning and I'm just my eyes are half asleep. I just don't want to give a half-assed product for you guys. So apologies. I'm going to be better. Might start taking more caffeine. I just really don't like taking caffeine much. But I'm not going to drop things that I'm doing. So I just got to manage my time better. And stay off your phones, people. That's the main time waster. But I'm going to be better, guys. I promise. I'm sorry. But hope you enjoy. Appreciate you all for listening, as always. Apologies if I hurt any of your feelings with my commentary on the players in a 28-point loss. There's bound to be people like that get their feelings hurt. To those people, I say, go Clippers. If you're not a Clipper fan, then I don't care. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.